Welcome to the Curious Soul Conversations by Mahak Kansara. I'm your host, Mahak Kansara, and today we have a very special episode focusing on intellectual property within Business Network International, better known as BNI. We're honored to have Mr. Ivan Misner, the founder and chief visionary officer of BNI. Welcome, Mr. Misner.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'm very happy to be on your show.
We're happy to have you, sir. As the founder and chief visionary officer of BNI, the world's largest networking organization, your insights are invaluable. Today, we'll delve into how BNI has navigated the realm of intellectual property over its 4-decade-long journey. Your experience offers educational as well as practical lessons for entrepreneurs worldwide. So let's start with the first question. How does intellectual property support and enhance BNI's core business model, and what specific IPs, IP assets have been and are the most critical to your success, BNI success? Starting from the time when BNI was simply the network.
The network, that's right. That's very good. You've done your homework.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to talk about the intellectual property. And at some point, I want to talk about something that I think is as important as the intellectual property, maybe not legally, but from a business perspective. But let's deal with your question directly, the intellectual property. Well, you mentioned the network. That was the name of the company in the beginning because I didn't plan on it being a large organization when I first started. That came to me pretty quickly. And so I went to trademark the network, and that was an untrademarkable name.
Yeah,
it was too generic.
Yes.
And so the trademark office wouldn't give it to me. So I had to work towards finding a name that was trademarkable. Back in the 80s, even the phrase Business Network International was not trademarkable because somebody owned a trademark in the US that was vaguely similar.
Yeah.
So I went to the initials, BNI. Yeah, so BNI was our first trademark. And so, we usually don't call ourselves Business Network International, although we do now, I'm pretty sure in some of our countries also own the phrase Business Network International. But BNI was the first trademark that we got. And of course, you put, well, listen, it's different in every country. So,
yes.
I'm speaking from mostly the US, although we're in 75 countries, but you can only put an R next to your mark when it is registered.
Yes, yes.
And so it's that way in most countries, is it not?
Yeah, so I did actually did a background check and found that it's actually impossible to know how many trademarks BNI owns. I mean, I do not know the whole system yet of BNI. So just by the name BNI, I was able to identify 14 or so, 14, 15 or so in just the US. And I'm not sure, there are multiple countries, 75 as you said. So do you have a ballpark figure of like what is actually the number of trademarks BNI owns now?
I don't know that number, but yes, we do. We know, and it's our legal, we have in-house counsel,
yes.
In-house legal counsel, and they have an Excel spreadsheet of every trademark in every country around the world. It was a long document.
It is a long document, for sure.
Yeah. So BNI was our first trademark. I think our second trademark, and we became international in around 1994, 95, and then we started doing international trademarks. But the second trademark in the United States was giver's gain. Yes. The idea that, you give business to people in order to get business. That was our second trademark. I have to say, besides BNI, that was probably one of the, every once in a while I have a good idea. That was probably one of my best ideas, was trademarking giver's gain.
Giver's gain.
Because it has helped us all around the world to maintain our intellectual property.
Yes, yes.
By trademarking giver's gain.
And also, once you trademark, in a few countries, you kind of establish that you are very serious about your brand. So whenever
Yeah,
people hear a certain phrase like givers gain, or where leaders connect, or what goes around comes around, all these
yeah,
phrases also, they are important and integral part to your business organization. So for that purpose, it's very important to assert in like different countries that you are very serious about your brand. And
exactly.
every time you hear these phrases, you can be assured of a quality or a trust that comes with our brand, establishing your brand identity.
Yeah, and my experience with trademarks is it's the easiest one to defend. That when somebody, at least that's been my experience, when somebody crosses the line and starts using that, in most countries, you can respond legally quickly, and the punitive damages and the fines and whatever are significant enough that people just go, okay, sorry,
I
they
do,
back off.
yeah, I did have a follow-up question for that. So maybe if you can answer
All
it
right, can
right
I
now,
can
and
I
later
can I
we.
talk about two more trademarks, and then let's
Yes,
do a
yes.
follow-up question. I think our most recent, or one of our most recent trademarks, was we did trademark BNI Connect, which is our online platform, but we also trademarked referrals for life. That's a
Referrals for
recent
life.
trademark
Okay.
that BNI has begun to use. But here's an interesting one that you might find curious. And again, I'm not an attorney. I don't know the answer worldwide, but I wanted to trademark my name to stop people from pretending to be me or to say things I didn't say and use my name. And I found out, at least in the US, that you can't trademark your name unless you add something to it.
Yeah, most
And
countries
so,
have this rule because
yeah,
names and surnames, this combination are. I mean, we would like to think that it's unique. My name is unique. I would like to
yeah,
think that way. But you throw a stone in India, and you'll land up on at least 5 to 10 megs in a group of 1,000.
yeah.
So, I mean, for
Well,
that
so
purpose, you
what
have to
I was,
establish a distinctiveness. But I mean, you can, I think, if you try hard, you can.
well, my name's a little unusual. There aren't too many other Ivan Misners. However, my attorney said just add something to it. And so I added doctor. I have a PhD. So I added doctor to my trademark. So I was able to trademark my name as Dr. Ivan Misner.
With Meissen. Yes.
Now, people wonder, well, why would you do that? Well, it has been great because I get people, particularly on social media, Facebook, other social media platforms, who pretend to be me.
Yes,
They use my
impersonation.
photos, they pretend, yeah. And I want to stop that because sometimes they're scamming women or they're scamming business people for
Yes.
money and
Yes.
just
Protected
immediately
through
start.
IP also and other civil laws also in the US, impersonation. But along with that, you'll be also be able to protect the, business aspect of your name. So that's a great
Yes.
idea, actually. So
And I did that a long time ago, probably 20 years
I
ago.
think you also came up with the BNI online also as soon as COVID hit. So that's also another a
I
recent
believe
one.
so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So
And then,
I mean,
of course, besides trademarks, your copyrights are all very
yes,
important to
yes.
have.
The first follow-up
Sure.
question is that BNI has a lot of education and training materials, and now we have BNI University as well. So there are a lot of content being created for the BNI members. So in that sense, how do you stop unauthorized use or distribution of such material?
Well, copyrights are a little harder to defend than trademarks because copyrights, people can take your content, rewrite it a little bit,
Yes, paraphrase.
and be able to use some of your content. But if they're taking too much of your content, my experience has been that the copyrights will hold up. And of course, we copyright all of our material. I copyright my books. I copyright my audio things. Um,
So
but it is a little harder to
all
defend
of the
copyrights.
material, and also, I mean, in the starting, I mean, you did come across as a business organization. So did the, when you came with the whole pattern and the whole business model, whole sequence of meetings and how the flow would be, what IP helped you a lot with that? The particular idea of behind BNI.
Yeah, well, so the flow of the meeting is unless somebody lifts it word for word, it's hard to copyright the flow of the meeting because people can take the ideas and move them around and change the words a bit. And that really leads me to the probably, I think, the most important topic for me. Intellectual property is important. You absolutely have to defend it.
Yes.
And there's something as important or even more important from the business perspective, not the legal perspective, in understanding about intellectual property. And that is that you can steal ideas, but you can't steal culture very
Yes.
easily. And
True.
culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so my advice to business people is, first of all, talk to an attorney about the intellectual property,
True.
and then focus on creating a vision that you can communicate to your clients. Then create a mission statement that you can communicate to your clients. And most importantly, create core values that get communicated to your clients. And the core values, they're the DNA of an organization. The core values that are lived, that are actually utilized within an organization, that's the DNA of the organization. So somebody can take an idea, but when you have a clear vision, a clear mission, great core values, and you train people on that, it's not so easy to steal that. You can't
Yes, yes.
steal culture
I mean,
very
it's
easily.
actually more important, I guess, in terms of because it's a franchisee model that we focus on. It's really
Yeah.
important that all the people who are the franchisees, they understand that they understand this culture, they understand how important intellectual property is, and they understand that we have to follow a system. We have to be the DNA team.
Yep. Yeah, very true. You do have to follow a system, and sometimes that's interesting, particularly with franchises, because entrepreneurs like to just make stuff up. They love making stuff up, and so one of our biggest challenges has been over the last 40 years to get people to stop making stuff up
Yes,
and
yes.
stop putting things in that make the system even more cumbersome. And so you really want, and that's a training issue, because people will naturally want to add things. I've had an
But
opportunity to
sometimes
spend
it's better, right? If you take examples of fast food chains like McDonald's and Subway, whenever they enter a particular country in India, even if they enter a particular state, change their menus a little bit to suit the customers. So I guess in that way, a little bit, I mean, does BNI allow a little bit of editing and modification to the model with respect to the country it is in?
With a big caveat, yes. The caveat is you can't just change it. You have to test it with approval. So there are franchises in BNI who say, I have an idea, I'd like to test it. We say okay or not okay. Sometimes we say, are you kidding? We did that 20 years ago. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. And sometimes it's like, wow, that's an interesting idea. You have approval to test it. Then they test it, and we look at the results. And now, with BNI Connect, we get data. So we can see hard data.
Yes.
Did it work?
Yes.
Did it not work? If it worked, then yeah, we implement it. There have been many things throughout the years. Visitor hosts, the people who say hello to visitors that come in, that
Yes.
was an experiment. The education coordinator, we didn't
And
have
it came
education
from a franchisee owner? The
Yes.
visitor. Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. And education coordinators, that came from a franchisee. The idea of taking visitors in, aside and doing an orientation for the visitor,
Okay,
that
yeah.
came from our franchisee. So there are many, many things that came from franchisees, but they were all tested first. Because we have 11,168 chapters
Yes.
in 75 countries. If you just let people start making stuff up, it'll be chaos. And so you have to have a system and a process. But
So are you able
yeah,
to check are you able to, what are the effective ways you are able to, audit that people are in fact following the system? I mean, is it through just the contracts, or is there a proper system that BNI follows for auditing
yeah.
purposes?
Well, we find out when people are getting off the rails, generally by someone, complaining about an issue where it's not in policy, and they'll say, how come our region is doing this? That's not, I don't see that anywhere in policy. or they'll post something on my podcast or on my blog saying, we're doing this. It's really weird. And it's like, oh, okay, thank you. So basically our clients, our members, they rat out our franchises. They tell on them. And that's often how we find out.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful because I think BNI has a clear, terms and conditions in terms of how you uh, follow the meeting structure and how you follow the growth of a particular region. I mean, there are proper terms and conditions, but sometimes, contracts are also not enough. Contracts with the franchisee owners is okay. You sit them out, you make them understand, that you have to do this, you have to do that. If you don't do this,
Yeah.
then, it would be terminated. It's against our policy. But with with a member, okay, with a member, you have across 300, 325K. Yeah.
326,000 members as of
Yes,
yesterday.
yes, yes. So keeping those members in check might also have been a difficult task.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. It is because they'll start making things up too. And there we rely on the franchisees and the local directors to come in and say, okay, you guys, you can't do that. You got to get back on track. And one of the things that I've learned is that technology has actually helped because, through the podcasts, through Business Builders or BNI University, you see a baseline of what's supposed to be taking place.
Yes, yes.
And so when people look at this and they go, well, that's not what we're doing, then it gives us a chance to open a dialogue with the local director.
So
and
basically,
say, stop
it's a relationship where everybody is like a principal and an agent at the same time. They make each other accountable for.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So you did mention
I would agree with that.
and
it's both good and bad. Yeah, no, go
I
ahead.
also did see we are an online platform. So because we are an online platform, so we have to adhere to the DMCA guidelines as well. So for those purposes also, do you receive a lot of complaints as such?
Yeah, yes. There are times where someone will complain that someone is infringing on the copyright, but oftentimes it's not an attorney and they don't understand, what copyright is. An idea cannot be copyrighted.
Yes.
Words can be copyrighted, but an idea can't be. And so they may think that there's copyright infringement and there isn't. However, there are times where there has been absolute copyright infringement.
Oh,
and we step
like
in.
members copying each other or
No, I mean somebody copying the BNI program word for word.
Okay, yeah, that's how I don't want to say, but that's like because like you said, because it's not an idea that is patentable, it's not an idea that is copyrightable. It's actually a whole about the structure and the culture and the
Right.
trade secrets that you have.
We don't get too many members who complain that their ideas are being infringed upon by other members, member to member. I can't remember a time where that's happened. I'm sure it has.
That actually makes me come down to the last question that we have for the day. And it was about the follow-up questions about somebody infringing on BNI trademarks. So there are a few, can you possibly make us understand a few issues where BNI have proactively managed their intellectual property infringement?
Well, there have been a number of occasions. Giver's gain is probably the one that happens the most, where another networking organization will start using the phrase giver's gain. And 99 times out of 100, all it takes is a letter from our attorney to just say, okay, you're infringing on our trademark. This is what's going to happen next. And they usually talk to their attorney, and then their attorney sends a letter saying, okay, we quit, we won't use that phrase anymore. So that's the beauty of the trademarks. And I think giver's gain has been the one that we have had to defend.
Not just for the trademarks, because you said but now we are online. Now everything is online as well. So there have been domain name issues as well. I did look upon that there was one domain name issue where somebody, registered a domain by bni.biz. It was early days, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what we've had recently, but I know years ago, 10, 15 years ago, somebody registered a BNI name, and I had our attorneys reach out to them, and they were basically, no, we don't care. And they were just sitting on it. They were just, it was a land grab and they were just sitting on it. They weren't using it. I took it to we reached out to them. They said, we don't care. We're keeping it. And then I reached out to I don't know the authority. There's an internet authority that you can take action with and say, this person is just sitting on a domain that I own the trademark for.
Yes.
And I think it was BNI.org, but I could be wrong about that. And we took it to the Internet Authority, and the Internet Authority made them sell it to us at a fair price. So that was one of the things that I did when I was the CEO of the company.
Most important thing with keeping trademarks is actually using it for the class that you apply it for. So if you're applying it for a business organization or a business market organization, the particular class that is applicable would be class 35. So if you apply it for that class, you have to use it in that class. And if you can show that you're using it,
yes, correct.
You have a strong case if you're able to show, and because you have a case of like 4 decades of usage. So all these I would say minor trivial domain issues, not something BNI is too bogged down by, I guess.
Yeah, well, you bring up a really good point, and that is the classifications that you choose. And I have found that it's important to be very thoughtful about the classifications and to take as many classifications as you can legally take.
Yes.
But you're not going to get them all. I know there was, I don't know if they're still around today, but there was at one time.
It depends on country to country, sir, actually. Because in some countries you have to show usage as well. In India, you don't really have to show usage. You can say, I intend to use it in the future. But with some countries, you have to show that you're using it. When you file an application, within 2 to 3 years, you have to show that you're using it.
Yeah, in the US, you do have to show that you are using it presently. But I was going to give you an example of a company that had a classification that did not compete with BNI, so they could keep their trademark. It was Builders Network Incorporated.
Okay.
And they were a construction company, which obviously we didn't compete with. So they were able to keep their trademark. They had a trademark before I had a trademark.
Okay.
I was able to get my trademark
because the classes were different.
Because the classifications were totally different. And they were able to, of course, keep their trademark. Even though we both had the same name, we were in totally different classifications. So this is where it really helps to have an attorney navigate you through the ins and outs of the process, because I didn't understand that until I went through that.
Yeah, it's very important actually for all business owners to understand that there has to be uniformity in how you use your particular trademark or even trade dress. So our signature red color as such.
When color and logo, a logo design, you can have trademarks, which I'm pretty sure we have as well. We had our colors for maybe 35 years. They were different than the red that we have now. It was burgundy and gray. And, we had that for about 35 years. And then 5 years ago or so changed to the red color that.
Oh, it has been 5 years that you changed to the.
It's only been 5 years. Yeah.
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 Okay. I like
maybe less, maybe 4. Yeah.
I like
we changed the logo and everything. Yeah.
Okay. And then you changed, you had to refile also for the logos, right?
We did. Yeah. Correct.
So you still own the old ones or have not been
yeah, I didn't ask. I haven't asked our attorney. I no longer run the day-to-day operations for BNI. I've gone from being, King Arthur to Colonel Sanders with BNI.
I think so with that, it's very insightful for a business owner like you to share stories.
Yeah.
They trust stories. Like you said, stories, you have to build that particular culture. Stories. They trust stories. Learning about your stories is probably, I guess, the single best example I can give right now, because you have you have a business model. A business model is really the most difficult to protect. You come up with a product. There is a physical product. You know that if this physical product is inventive, you get a patent for this, and if it has software, you get a copyright for that software. If it has
Yeah.
a particular design, a shape or something, you get an industrial design, a design patent for that. So it's very easy, and it's very, I would say, in your face. You can see it. It's not that
Yes.
difficult to navigate. But having a business organization like this, with particular step by step process for everything, I can
Yes.
understand how daunting the whole IP process must have been for you in the last 40 years. And
40
you
years,
learn
yeah.
every day. This is not under IP, but this is still very, very important. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's a combination of, you keep something as a trade secret, you get something protected by a valid intellectual property, you keep something, in the form of, I would say, like contracts or terms and service. So it's a
Right.
combination. It's not one solution. You have
No,
to have a combination of 2-3 particular things. And
many
then
things.
you're also focused on somebody not impersonating you. If somebody comes up and says, oh, okay, I am Dr. Ivan, from now on BNI meetings would be on Sunday, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really difficult to, because it's an internet, you understand now it's deep fake and everything as well. So it's really
Oh, yeah,
difficult.
that scares me, those issues. I think I'm sitting here trying to think of a good analogy. I think, because I talked about culture being so important. I think culture is the house.
Yes,
IP is the foundation.
yes, yes,
The foundation's got to have strong IP that's protected. And if you
yes.
don't have that, the house will fall.
I think it's foundation as well as windows and a little bit of roof as well, because some IP is identified from the very beginning. You lay the foundation. And some, as you go about, you realize, okay, now I can go for this also.
Yeah.
Your name, like the issue that you face with your name, that name is not trademarkable, but name associated with a person who is so distinctive that anybody hearing that name would only think of a particular person. You have to reach that particular distinctiveness in life. So it's like a journey, foundation and a little bit of windows and roof, like that.
Fair enough. Yeah. Agreed.
Yes, sir. So with this, we come to the conclusion of the interview today.
My pleasure to be here. I appreciate the invitation to be on this. And this is a topic that's more unusual than most of the interviews I've done in my career.
Yes.
So
We are creating, you're creating a business, a business circle of owners. For owners, it's very
yeah,
important to understand that they have to safeguard their IP, as well as at the same time not
yeah,
infringe on somebody else's IP also. Because like you said, we also
yeah,
want a certain quality people associated with the organization that way. We do not want
yeah.
people who are into mischief, because that destroys culture.
Let me leave you, because I know we're wrapping up. Let me leave you with something that someone once said to me that I think you'll like. They once said to me, it's very expensive to hire a lawyer. And I told them it's a lot more expensive not to hire a lawyer.
Yes. Yes.
Because in the long run, you're going to have a lot of costs because you weren't prepared to
Yes.
protect
Yes.
your intellectual property. Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
That's perfect.
Well, thank you so much for the
That's
interview.
perfect that you are so proactive in terms of intellectual property, as a business owner should be. And I hope that the viewers also learn a little about intellectual property and how a business needs to have a foundation, as well as they grow, understand what intellectual property modifications they need. So thank you so much,
Agreed.
sir, for tuning in. And until next time, I hope you create innovative structures for everyone. And I hope you have a good time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.